Call this meeting of the Bloomfield Board of Education. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Chapman, Mr. Fowler,
Present.
Dr. Hatfield Price,
Present.
Mr. Mellis,
Present.
Ms. Parker.
Yes.
I do have a statement, just for the record, real quickly, from Mrs. Chapman that she sent to Mr. Hahn and myself. Again, from Mrs. Chapman. I apologize that I'm not able to be at the meeting this evening. I do want to thank all of you for the work that has been done on the facility plan. We have a long way to go and a lot to accomplish, including assurances from other governmental entities that we can build on the Carroll Eastern site before it can be on the ballot. I would like to thank Sean and Travis for their ongoing work and leadership of this project. I am unable to be at the meeting tonight because I had accepted a speaking engagement with a former client centering on the care for children with special needs. I am taking some time to be with friends in Tennessee. I thought the Board of Education meeting would be next week. I sincerely apologize for the conflict. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any changes in the agenda? There are not. Charles, Stephen?
Motion?
Second?
Second.
Dr. Hatfield Price?
Yes.
Mr. Fowler?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Mills?
Yes. Approval of the minutes. Ron, you bring up ones you mentioned to me.
It's just on letter C, the second for the adjournment was by Mrs. Hatfield Price, Dr. Hatfield Price. And it was years instead of year on letter A for Mr. Desai.
Any others? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Roll call.
Mr. Fowler?
Yes.
Dr. Hatfield Price?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
And Mr. Mills?
Yes. Public participation. Do we have anyone that wants to participate today?
Nope.
We have gone through the performing arts and music boosters.
Mr. Fowler, Music Boosters is here this evening, so I know it's been a busy, very busy fall for you. I know I squeezed you in at threw you kind of a curveball and squeezed you in November, but I appreciate you being here, and I thought it would actually be a good time, even though you just wrapped up, the last blast on Thursday last week. So why don't you please give us an update on the everything you've done since going back to the summertime?
I'll do that, and then I'll go ahead and hand it over to our president to tell you about the booster side of things, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, good evening, everyone. We're very, very busy, had a very successful marching season, and we are quickly now, next Tuesday, we load a trailer, and the marching band is going to perform in Disney World, and we're flying down there. The other cool thing about the performance is, a nice performance is a parade performance, but the kids actually do a workshop with animators and the musicians at Disney. And it's one of the things when they look on the itinerary, it's a 3-hour workshop, and they all give me a bunch of grief about it. They're like, "Oh, we're gonna have God, you're gonna pull us out of here to go do this workshop." But when they actually get back there, they show them what it's like to be professional musicians, how you get very little rehearsal time because that time's money. And then they actually show them how they record the music to Disney animations. And so when they get into that, and the kids are actually performing some of the music, they're showing the animation on the board, and it's pretty exciting there. So we've had a very exciting and very successful fall. We're now turning that around, and I've shoved a bunch of Christmas music out to the kids. We had our first jazz rehearsal of the year tonight because we come back from Thanksgiving, and then we've got the middle school concert and the high school concert. The BC Jazz and Blues Festival is back this year. The one year we didn't have a lot of schools 2 years ago that wanted to participate in it. I pulled it back, and last year I got all these emails, "Hey, you doing this?" So we're doing it. I've had in the past with those festivals performances from Oberlin Conservatory and Cincinnati Conservatory. Then we did a vocal jazz thing from Tiffin. This year we're changing it up to a group out of Columbus called the Whirly Birds, and they're about 20 to 30-year-old musicians. And if you know of the group Postmodern Jukebox, it's gonna be a twist of that, so something very popular with jazz, but in a kind of a different way. And we'll have a bunch of high schools here performing, and they do a master class for the kids. We're also excited in the spring, in addition to our Swinging Scoops, the outdoor concert that we do every year. This year we have, last year I wasn't sure. I had Mr. Springer as an assistant for marching band, someone who I've been with for 15 years at various school districts, and couldn't think of a way to thank him. A plaque doesn't seem to do it, or a trophy. So I was able to contact a composer out of the Air Force for one of the Air Force bands, because he was a retired military personnel, and we're actually having a piece commission, which means a piece is being written for Bob Springer from this composer, and it'll be published nationally. And so we're paying the gentleman who's giving us a rate on that. So it's actually a piece that's going to be premiered here at Bloom Carroll in April. And I'm contacting Mr. Springer to help students at Fairfield Union, Bloom Carroll, Liberty Union, his alma mater, and Pickerington. So my plan that night, he's coming up from Florida for the premiere of this piece at our spring concert. The composer's flying in from Virginia, and I plan on having a bunch of students on stage, former students. So when the piece is premiered and our band's playing it, at the end, the back curtain opens up, and there's hopefully hundreds of students. So the kids are very excited about it. We have had a piece commissioned here about 25 years ago, but that was for Jim Morgan, who was a past band director here, and then went to Watkins to finish his career. So we're very excited about that. And so that's some of the things we're celebrating. Facilities is always a concern. We went from 2 band rooms to 1 band room here at the high school. So those are some of the challenges we've got. We've got some exciting things going on, but challenges there. We had phase 1 of 3 that has been done in our instrument storage area for the students, and that was done in the winter of 2013. And so hopefully, I haven't checked recently about phase 2 and 3, but from talking with the Zimmerman Corporation, I think it would help us maximize that space. So taking out some of the old cabinets to where we could get more instrument storage in that area for the students that we have in our program, since we're all in one and band room now. And the big key of it was when Travis and I talked about it, when the first phase went in, is that it's very mobile. So it wasn't something that, okay, you're never going to be able to move it if something ever did happen in the future and we built a new high school, we could just take that out, move it into the new storage area. We're very excited. We're very happy. The middle school kids are excited. We have 2 middle school kids representing OMEA District 15 in an honors band at Worthington Kilbourne. I tweeted that out today. That's the first time we've ever had that. So they will go and play with students from Upper Arlington. District 15 is a very wide swath of Fairfield County and Franklin County. And so we're going to go with guest conductors, very similar to our all-county band, but on a bigger scale. 2 7th grade students, very, very talented 7th grade students. So that's at 3:30 on Saturday at Worthington Kilbourne. And then we have 2 high school students performing in the Columbus Symphony Youth Orchestra on Sunday at 3 o'clock. So a lot of great things happening within our music program, and I'd like to thank you for your continued support. This is our president, Lori Rice, of our Music Boosters, and she has some things to add.
Hi, good evening. First off, I want to thank you all for your support of the program and our students, and tell you a little bit about what we've done this past year. Our boosters provide about $25,000 annually to our directors and our staff, which is about 99% of their budget for the students in grades K through 12. That money, $25,000, doesn't include the money that we raise to pay towards our concession stand payments, to put in uniforms, and to help offset the costs of trips for the students. We had in May a Disney dinner raffle and fundraiser. We also did a car wash, and we raised money to help offset the cost of the Disney trip. So each of the 59 students that are attending are getting about $100 a piece that help them reduce the cost of their trip. We know that we're going to need new uniforms in the next 3 to 5 years, so we're going to be looking at fundraising. That's going to cost between $35,000 to $40,000 for those uniforms. So future fundraisers, we're going to be hitting hard and starting a fund to put money away towards that. Also, we have been making our concession stand payments. That should be paid off in early 2018, January or February. And we've made all of our payments on time as scheduled, and we're looking forward to getting that payment done and being able to use that money to put towards some of our other things that we need. That's all I have. Thank you again for all of your support.
Thank you.
Laura, I just want to say, thank you for all the work that you have done. I know this is kind of the first year you're in this role. Just going to BC Classic and watching the other events, I think you've done an amazing job with the music boosters, and I appreciate your work and your time. I thought the BC Classic was a great reflection of our school district. It was well ran, it was organized, and I know not only was Mr. Falvo, he's obviously responsible for that, but the boosters works hand in hand with him, and there's a lot of other volunteers. So thank you, you guys did a great job this fall.
Thank you.
Okay, item 7, treasurer's recommendations.
Thank you. Item A, asking for board approval of the October financial statements. Total expense for the month, $7,575,503.57. Of that, close to $5.5 million in SCOIC expenses for the month. You have the executive summary, which starts on page 15 if you're on your electronic copy. October is one of the quarterly income tax collection months. The amount collected was close to the estimate, a little over 18,000 below our estimate for the month. This is the second collection in a row that's been a little bit lower than the estimates. It's kind of a flatlining of the revenue and the income tax, which obviously could cause long-term issues if that continues. October also marks the first month that we are funded based on our actual enrollment, which will affect two items. It affects unrestricted state aid, as well as other revenue for the open enrollment. If you look at our open enrollment decrease, we're estimated to be about $130,000 lower than the prior year, and you can see the detail of that on our enrollment sheet, which is page 20 of your packet, electronic packet. It's the gray report if you have the hard copy, and we've talked about this, but now that we're actually being funded on the new enrollment, which is live, so we report enrollment, basically report it every day. As students withdraw and as students enroll, so it's truly a live look at our enrollment. Last year we were at 163 open enrollment students. You can see there in the bottom left. We currently have 137 open enrollment students, a decrease of 26, and that comes in at $6,100 per student. So you see that decrease in the other open enrollment line item. That being said, we are up overall. Because of the 84 additional resident students that we currently have. So certainly it's a balancing act as we try to keep our class sizes at optimal levels. With that, any questions on the financial statements or the checks that were written during the month?
I have one question. On page 6 of the yellow sheet, I just want to know what it is. Total fund 300, district managed activities.
Those are all, that's basically a combination of two things. It's athletics and performing arts. So it's our athletic fund plus our drama and our band fund that the district manages, but they're still outside of our general fund operations.
That's all I have. Have any other questions? Not, anyone have a motion? Hold on, Stacey. Is there a second?
That was such a good idea, I'll second it.
Okay. Roll call.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Dr. Hatfield-Price?
Yes.
Mr. Fowler?
Yes.
Mr. Mellis?
Yes.
Item B, I'd like to approve the following student activity funds. Both are within our middle school. The first one is Science Club. You can see there with the purpose statement budget. The majority of this has been ran through the Principals Fund in the past, both the Science Club and the Yearbook Fund. We decided, Mr. Young, Ms. Singbert, and Mrs. Butcher and myself, that it would be good to break these two out and basically have these as separate activity funds. So in order to create the funds, we do need board approval, and you have the purpose statement along with anticipated revenues and budgets in your packet.
Any questions? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Fowler?
Yes.
Dr. Hatfield-Price? Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Millis?
Yes. 8 old business. Approve the following policies for a second reading. Anyone have any questions on the? Hopefully you won't ask me any questions, but you know all the policies. I'm going to make that motion. Anyone with a second? Roll call.
Mr. Millis?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Fowler?
Yes.
Dr. Hatfield-Price?
Yes.
And superintendent's recommendation.
Okay, under 9A, just to kind of give you a few updates on some things going on. Obviously, the Capital Conference takes place next week, November 12th through the 14th. And then Mr. Fowler, Mr. Millis, and Mrs. Chapman will also be attending. Travis and I will be up there on the 13th and the 14th. We will be taking students to the Student Achievement Fair on Tuesday the 14th between 10:30 and 2. We will have 2 different groups up there, one representing the Middle School Robotics Club. She was here, Mrs. Cottle will be up there with some students, and then also Mrs. Dinsmore from the high school will have the new class that she has started called the Next Level of Career Exploration. She'll be up there with 4 or 5 high school students as well. So if you get a chance when you're up there, please stop by and see our students and many of the other students from around the state that are, they have some neat things going on in their school districts too. So the fall state testing window for the 3rd grade reading guarantee closed last Friday. We were able to get every student tested except for one who missed the second part of the test. Just due to an illness, so we will be able to eventually do that in the spring, but overall went very well. It is mandated that it's online unless you meet the exemption. We don't meet the exemption due to the technology infrastructure and devices that we have available. The 3rd grade reading guarantee went well. The students and teachers did a great job with that. Mr. Mozeski did hold a parent information night for the 3rd grade reading guarantee. Several parents did show up, and they were able to get some helpful information leading into that. That was held on October 25th. And then we also had the night before that, the high school science club hosted the K4 science night. That was held in the high school, and there were saw several people there. Honestly, I don't know if we could have, if we had space for many more elementary students, but it was well attended and some really neat hands-on science activities going on at the high school. So we would like to thank the High School Science Club and Mr. Carter for hosting that, and also for all the parents and students that attended. Just want to make a public comment. Veterans Day is coming up this Saturday. Just obviously, my family is closely connected to veterans. I have a nephew that serves in the U.S. Marines, and a brother-in-law that served in the U.S. Army. I know we've all been impacted by the contributions that veterans have made. And I just want to take a minute to obviously recognize and thank all veterans on behalf of the school district and recognize them. We have some events taking place on Friday with Veterans Day. In the morning at 7:45 here in the middle school, they'll be holding an assembly in the auditorium at 7:45 in the morning. Any of you are welcome. The intermediate school will be hosting their event over at LUMC in Lithopolis at 9:30 a.m. And then the primary school will hold their Veterans Day assembly back here in the middle school at 1:30 on Friday. The high school does activities within the classrooms. So all the teachers will have Veterans Day activities on Friday going on and lessons taking place to learn a little bit more about Veterans Day. But again, just want to thank all veterans for their service. I did pass out a handout to the board. It is the senior survey results from the class of 2017. Mr. Balke does a very good job of getting feedback, and that allows us to see where we're doing well, where we're not doing well, where we need to make changes and growth in our guidance department and in our school, in our high school overall. And you know, obviously on a scale of 5 being excellent, 1 being poor, 3 being average. The overall high school experience, 132 students returned their surveys in that class, and there was a 4.02 average, which 5 is excellent, 4 is good, 3 average. But our students do enjoy their time at Blue Carroll, and we think that they come out and they're prepared to move on with their next phase of life. But you can see it's broken down in a number of areas, but overall their high school experience, 132 seniors that returned the survey from the class of 2017 believe that they had a good experience at Blue Carroll High School. So just wanted to share that with the board. And then we also have Senate bill, and this may be covered in the legal updates later at the end. I don't know if anybody was, Fowler, I don't know if you were gonna share anything with this, so I didn't want to steal your thunder, but Senate Bill 216, I think it sounds like it might have some legs or a number of things that might be able to get changed in education. And it's basically a deregulation bill. It's trying to simplify the teacher licensure process and permits for aides and substitutes, substitute aides. It is looking at possibly breaking the teacher license into 2 bands, a K-8 and a 6 through 12. Not 100% sure how I really feel about that, to be honest. There's a big range between teaching 8th grade and kindergarten, but I just want you to be aware of some of those changes that are being proposed. And you know, some of these are certainly good. There's a lot of good things in here. The Ohio Teacher Evaluation System, there's some measures to remove the student code measures from teacher evaluations. And I know that's been talked about for the past year, but it sounds like it's actually being debated now in the Senate, so that's one thing to keep an eye on. Some changes to state testing, student assessments, possibly eliminating the state mandated diagnostics for kindergarten and K-3 literacy for districts with an 80% or higher pass rate on the 3rd grade reading guarantee. We would fall into that category, so it would help to eliminate some of the testing and allow for us to teach more. You know, it would introduce an option or reintroduce an option to use paper tests on all state assessments for students in grades 3, 4, and 5. One thing that I really don't like as an educator is the 3rd graders, that's their first year of state assessments, and they're taking online computer assessments to get out of 3rd grade, and I really believe it's certainly assessing heavily their technology skills more so than their ability to read. So you know, I think if we have options with that, and we can even pick individual students that may feel more comfortable with paper testing compared to online testing, I think that's ultimately a good thing for students. I think we're progressing in technology in enough other areas that I don't think we have to force 3rd graders on the computers to take a reading assessment that determines if they get held back in 3rd grade or not. So I just think there's some other ways to use technology than to force it on a state assessment with that kind of high stakes tied to it. It would require the American Institute of Research to provide an item analysis for the test questions that were done the previous spring, which would be nice for our teachers to understand where our students are not doing well, so we can actually get some feedback. And then it would also provide the American Institute of Research and probably the Ohio Department of Education to provide more information and preparation materials for state assessments as well. There's some changes also possibly being introduced with attendance. That falls under student management and safety. Currently, right now with truancy, the state's House Bill 410 makes us include excused absences towards the truancy count. And when a doctor is signing a note for a student that they need to stay home, but yet it's being held against them when we have to report hours for absences, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So we're trying to put some common sense, or somebody's trying to put some common sense into this, and that would also
Legislature and common sense, that's a
yeah,
topic.
yeah. Well, we'll see if it actually moves forward. And then the last change, potential changes would impact College Credit Plus. As you know, that's becoming very expensive for school districts across the state. There's been a lot of complaints from educators to the state legislature and ODE and higher ed about the cost of College Credit Plus courses, and that basically we are paying, our money is being redirected from the local district to the college or university The students don't have to pay for any tuition at all. They don't have to pay for any textbooks at all. The only thing, they don't have to pay for class fees at all. The only thing they do have to pay for is if they drive to the campus and they need to buy a parking permit. So it would introduce some costs that may include potentially paying a little bit for textbooks, maybe 50% for textbooks for the parent or student. And they're just looking at some ways to maybe be more cost effective. And they're also going to look in to see if it's actually progressing students in terms of earning degrees in Ohio, if it's actually helping, and if it's been money well spent the last 3 years. So again, it can become more expensive when students are accessing College Credit Plus courses online or off campus compared to in-house. A lot of districts aren't able to offer them in-house like we are, and we're very fortunate that we do offer several CCP courses on our campus. And then also looking at classroom ratios and the number of hours for preschool operating standards, that's another area that could be impacted as well. So finally, I just want to wish the band a safe trip, an enjoyable trip when they go to Orlando, November 16th through the 21st, and that is a great experience. So I want to thank the board for allowing that trip to take place every so many years. So that's it under the superintendent's report. Moving on to B. I'm sorry, are there any questions?
Yeah, I have one. On the Senate Bill 216, where it says no criteria on college degree under substitutes, meaning they still have to have a college degree or not?
I'm sorry, which?
The second bullet, well, the second. So.
A single substitute license?
Yeah.
I don't know, I need to get clarification.
Some states they don't have to.
Yeah, currently in Ohio, if you have an undergraduate degree, then you can obtain a substitute license in Ohio. It doesn't have to be in education, it can just be a degree. Like I said, there's some good things about this and some not so good things. That's an area that I'm sure will be debated, and I don't know if, I'm sure there will be plenty of revisions before that happens, but it's probably a good thing for substitutes to have some basic education as well at the post-secondary level. So, not sure. Any other questions? Okay, moving on to 9B, students and programs. Number 1, approve an overnight trip November 11th through 12th, 2017 for 12 cross-country athletes to participate in the 9th regional meet in Terre Haute, Indiana, chaperoned by Coach Luke Sanderell.
Did we get this earlier and this just now is coming to us for vote?
No, this just got introduced a couple weeks ago. Mr. Little came over and talked to me, and it's a big cross-country event that if you're really into running, a lot of people, it's a very well-known event. It is out of the season. In the past, we've had other teams or groups take trips during out of the season, softball or volleyball, and done some places during the summertime and things. The students will not miss any school. Our parents go in with some of the students, and then also we're providing school transportation on that trip as well for the student athletes that do not have a parent going with them.
Okay, and it does say there are 4 other athletes that are riding with their parents. Right, each individual athlete's parent, at least one parent going with them, or?
Yes,
okay.
Yes. If they're riding together, they still have to have a parent in that car with them. So if 2 parents are driving their kids over together, each kid will have a parent with them.
Right.
Yeah. Any other questions about that?
Do I have a motion? Second. I'll second. Roll call.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Mellis?
Yes.
Mr. Fowler?
Yes.
Dr. Hatfield-Price?
Okay, under 9C, personnel and employment, number 1, approve the substitute list number 4 for November 2017 as submitted by the Fairfield County ESC. Number 2, approve the employment of Colby Jepson as computer technician on a 1-year limited contract at step 1 for the 17-18 school year effective October 23rd, 2017. And this is to fill the vacancy created by the resignation of Mr. Taylor from our last board meeting. Number 3, next page. Approve the following FMLA leave request for the 17-18 school year. A, Bonnie Kaiser at the intermediate school, effective October 16th, 2017 through no later than January 26th, 2018. B, Lauren Toderai, first grade teacher, effective January 16th, 2017 through April 12th, 2017. And under C, Heather Midkiff, second grade teacher, effective on or about February 12th, 2017 through approximately May 10th, 2017. Number 4, approve an increase in work hours of Billy Sutton, van driver, from 4 hours per day to 5.25 hours per day, effective November 1st, 2017. Number 5, approve 1 unpaid leave or dock day for Tom Sarsfield on October 20th, 2017. Number 6, approve Emily Jude as a substitute classroom library aide, lunchroom monitor, and secretary for the 2017-18 school year, pursuant to receipt of background checks. Number 7, approve Michelle Hessler, who's current sub as a substitute lunchroom monitor and substitute cook for the 17-18 school year. Number 8, approve the following athletic supplemental contracts for the 17-18 school year, pending timely receipt of all verifications and background checks, and for A through C as presented for cheerleading. Number 9, approve the following volunteers for the 17-18 school year, pending successful background check results. Those would be Group A volunteers with background checks on file, and we have a vote of it.
Any questions?
So just a comment,
Yeah.
I think it's what Tom is doing when you read the notes.
Yeah.
I think that one of the reasons I love the district is because, you know, he's doing that for a student that he had, and it just shows the longevity of these relationships. You know, I mean, I still see teachers here that had me, and it warms your heart, and so I love that is a reciprocal relationship. So that, I just wanted to say, great job for him, and I know as a student, that probably means the world to that.
And we had to do that retroactively because it kind of just popped up. Mr. Sarsfield is a government or social studies teacher at the high school, and just so that those of you in the audience knows what Dr. Hatfield Price is referring to, Mr. Sarsfield had a former student, Blue Carroll student, inducted to the Hall of Fame for the United States Coast Guard Academy, and she requested that Mr. Sarsfield be available to attend that induction to the Hall of Fame for the U.S. Coast Guard. So again, he had a significant impact, just like a lot of us have been impacted by the different teachers that we've had. So she was able to reach out to him, and Mr. Sarsfield was able to attend kind of at the last minute on that.
I had a couple of former students, I said, no, finish up that PhD, which I jumped in there, or they just didn't want me there. I said, you call me, I'll go, some money, you know.
Any questions about any of those items?
I'll make the motion.
Second. Roll call.
Dr. Hatfield Price?
Yes.
Mr. Mellis?
Yes.
Mr. Fowler?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Okay, nothing under 9D contracts, nothing under 9E other, and moving on to 9F, personnel resignations and retirements. Number 1, accept the resignation of Vivian Coleman, second grade teacher, effective December 22nd, 2017. That is at the semester break. I would like to thank her for her many years of service. She's in her 18th year here in the Blue Carroll District. Her kids are grown, they have their own families now. Her and her husband would like to get closer to their grandkids and her kids in the Kentucky area. So they're ready to head in that direction.
Any questions? I have a motion.
So moved.
Second. Roll call.
Mr. Fowler?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Dr. Hatfield Price?
Yes.
Mr. Mellis?
Yes. Number 10, new business, January 10, 2018 is the date of the annual organizational meeting of the board to be held at 6 p.m. at the middle school library, to be followed by the regular session of the board. Are there any questions on that? Can I have a motion?
I'll make that one.
You make that one, Don?
Yeah, I'll make that one.
Thank you.
Second.
Are you seconding, Ron?
Yeah, it's all good.
It's all good. Okay, roll call, please.
Dr. Hatfield Price?
Yes.
Mr. Fowler?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Mellis?
Yes. Obviously, they like you.
Hopefully it works for at least some of you guys.
Okay, B, we have levy discussion, Travis.
Yeah, in your packet, I know, feel free to jump in, Mr. Hahn, but I kind of wanted to just, there's no decisions we need to make tonight. What I would like to do is just kind of go through this, kind of now that we've got the master plan and we have an approval that was conducted at our October 31st meeting, and it's on our website and was emailed out by Mr. Hahn. Now we kind of get into the technical and nuts and bolts and things, and kind of the dry details of the decisions that need to be made to get on the ballot. So again, I had handed out a levy discussion kind of outline, and once we go through this, and what I would like to do from this point forward is get a couple of different resolutions into your hands, maybe prior to Thanksgiving, and give you 3 or 4 weeks to really kind of look at them and digest them, talk to the community and the constituents, and be ready to make a decision at the December 11th meeting with some more details. Just kind of looking here as we talk about the levy discussion, we first look at a bond issue, and again, just kind of going back to the basics of how we would, if we're successful at the ballot, how this thing will be funded. A bond issue is just simply a property tax. It's an increase in property tax, which is conveyed through millage on your tax bill. And it would be used, the proceeds would be used for the construction of the new K-5 building, and it would be sized in a way to include the construction of the new building, including all the costs that we talked about during the PowerPoint of Mr. Shore's presentation from October 31st. We would sell the bonds, and then the proceeds from the bonds, again, just to reiterate, can only be used for construction costs, and then subsequently the taxes that are collected each year based upon the increase in property taxes can only be used to pay the principal and interest on the bonds. Can't be used to pay salaries. They cannot be used for any type of operating costs within the school district. Another aspect of the bond that you have to keep in mind, and we do have to make a decision on this, is how long do we want the bonds to span. By law, they can span the entire estimated useful life of the asset that's being constructed using the proceeds. Normally, though, school bonds are anywhere from 28 to 37 years. The current bonds we have are 28 years on the middle school, but the millage rolls back as property values increase and as new people move into the district and new houses are constructed. For example, the bond that was used to construct the middle school was 5.8 mils. It's now at 4.5. So inherently, it rolls back based upon an increase in the taxable values in the district. That's the bond issue portion. Yes?
Is there an optimum number of years that seems to sell well when you go to sell the bond?
That is a very good question. There's no scientific, data to back up what's more successful in terms of at the ballot. The longer you take it out, the less millage you have to ask for. But sometimes when people get into that voting box and see 37 years, 40 years, it spooks them a little bit, for lack of a better term. I wouldn't go below 28, and I probably wouldn't go above 37, quite frankly. But at that point, it becomes a millage kind of numbers game.
I have attempted a couple things at OSBA, and I haven't heard any of them come up with the optimal number.
Yeah. The second aspect that we've discussed in terms of looking at a facility, a long-term plan, is a permanent improvement levy. A permanent improvement levy can take on one of two looks in terms of what kind of tax, a property or an income tax. And it's about 50-50 throughout Ohio what school districts use for their permanent improvement. But with that, regardless of what kind of tax it is, it can only be used to acquire assets, make improvements to existing assets, or maintenance on an asset that has a useful life of more than 5 years. So, a preventative maintenance contract, the contracts on our boilers, basically extending the useful life of those things are all applicable, allowable expenditures with a permanent improvement levy. And again, the proceeds may not be spent on any operating expenses other than those specific capital improvements. We've talked about what the Ohio Facility Construction Commission does require, the equivalent of a 1/2 mil. For us, that's about $180,000 annually to be placed in a separate maintenance fund for 23 consecutive years from the time you first take money from or receive money from the state. So that would be when you are in CFAP, which obviously we're not there yet. So with that being said, there are some decisions we have to make before we can approve the first resolution in December. We looked at we looked at the PowerPoint and we saw some numbers in about the $28.3 million range. We do have to settle on an amount. How conservative do we want to be? How close do we want to cut it to the architect's estimates? And that's really what will drive the millage. It's not up to us to say how many mills it is. It's up to us to say how much do we want to ask for, and then subsequently county auditor will certify the millage. So the first thing we need to do is decide on that dollar amount. The second thing we need to do is, if we are going to ask for both a bond issue and a permanent improvement levy, do we want to combine that on the ballot as one issue, one vote? And it will literally say, do you wish to vote for the bond issue and do you wish to vote for the permanent improvement levy? You know, it's a little more technical than that, but one yes or one no. And basically, so it either all passes or it all fails. Do we want to run it separately? Obviously, that could take on a whole nother list of issues that might come into play, but you can run them separately. So one may pass, one may not, or vice versa. I don't, in my opinion, I think both of these, and I said this at our last meeting, I think both of these are vital to the long-term health, the fiscal health, and our facilities plan. So I think they're part and parcel of one, and they should be asked for at the same time. I don't know. Certainly you can disagree, and yeah, but I think they're combined, they're important to our long-term facility plans. So, or do we only, and the second question, do we only run a bond issue at this point and not include any permanent improvement dollars at this time? It's obviously what we did with phase one. We just approved a bond issue, and we do not have a permanent improvement levy at this time. C, and this is where it's going to get complicated. If we do include a permanent improvement levy, going back to the way you can ask for a PI levy, is it going to be in the form of a property tax, mills, or an income tax? And to take that further, if it's a property tax, then it's you ask for a dollar amount, and the county auditor will certify that. But we can kind of back into that based on our millage. If it is an income tax, though, we've talked about looking at the option of an earned only income tax. So that would exclude your pensions. It would exclude your interest dividends. It would basically just be anybody who's actively employed and receives a W-2 based on their wages. Right. If it were that easy, it would be good. But if we do look at an earned only income tax, then our entire income tax base would have to be converted to earned only. So we currently have a 1.25 traditional income tax and I talked about it we would have to switch the entire base. So I would have to, and Mr. Hahn and myself would work with the Department of Taxation to determine, if we went to 1.5%, which is a 0.25% increase, how much does it bring in both for our operating and our permanent improvement portion? So,
the amount of money could go down.
Right. The base that you're taxing obviously goes down. So inherently, the rate would have to go up to keep you whole.
But then seniors, as far as the percentage goes, do go to the polls.
Yeah, and that would subsequently remove the entire income tax.
I saw Joe, some little old lady at the grocery store yesterday. Whatever it takes.
I put some ORC references in there for you. Just the 5705.218 talks about combining a bond issue and a permanent improvement millage levy. Mouse is not working, excuse me here. 5748.08 allows you to combine the bond issue with a school district income tax, and within the school district income tax may be utilized for operating expenses or permanent improvements, depending on how it's structured within the ballot language. Again, feel free to add anything or to kind of talk about what we've gone through today. But again, what I would like to do is kind of work with our attorney. They've got these in boilerplate. No, they're ready to go, and I've been in contact with them, so I can throw out some different scenarios and get them to you, not just as part of a packet, but well before the December meeting, so we can kind of digest this and have some discussion. Correct.
It's the timeline.
Travis, could you take it from this, everybody here has a better understanding. So the first resolution would be December 11th, and then what has to happen after that in January?
The first resolution it's called a resolution of necessity. The board is saying we feel it's necessary to perform these levies. It would be a bond. But it would lock you into a dollar amount. It would lock you into what the permanent improvement levy would look like. And then we take that to the county auditor and they would bring back millage. And then the second resolution would be in January. We established our organizational meeting for the 10th. We've also looked at maybe having a second January meeting if need be. And that would be a resolution to proceed. And at that point, it locks in exactly what people will see when they go in to vote on, I don't know exactly when the election is, May, the second Tuesday in May. And at that point, once we have the approved resolution to proceed, we'll walk it down to the Board of Elections, and they will certify it to ensure that we meet the 75-day deadline to the May election.
Anyone have any questions? Anybody in the audience? Large crowd.
Thanks, Travis.
Mm-hmm.
So we have board reports and information, board of education liaison updates, facility management, transportation, everything we run.
We're all to discuss this evening now.
Personnel labor management, I don't. Media communication, community relations. Dr. Price.
I didn't know it was on that, so.
I didn't know it was either.
Yeah.
And then there it is.
Mrs. Chapman did not have anything.
Okay.
OSBA representative,
Again, Capital Conference next week.
5 policy.
Well, and thank you for going to that. And sincerely, for those of you that don't know, OSBA conference, and then when board members go, number one, we get to associate and understand what other board members across the state are going through. You get to go, oh, I'm so glad I'm up with Carol, because you hear those stories and go, woo! But it is a commitment of time, and so for you guys to do that, and I know you do that consistently, and so thank you.
And you get to have chicken. And safety, health, and wellness. I see that I'm on that committee, and I didn't know I was, so, whole problem there is, you have anything for us?
We have a December meeting coming up, I think December 18th for the safety, health, wellness, that was our second one.
Coming PTO booster board meeting, I didn't set any of this. I know tomorrow's election day. So do you see anything that needs to be changed, Sean, with the?
No, I looked through it, I think everything's okay, the comp day is good, Thanksgiving break, PTO meetings are good, and that is a great big time for the board meeting in December.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn all these?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Fowler?
Yes.
Dr. Hatfield-Price?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Millis?
Yes. 45 minutes, that's how long we were talking about it at the football game.
Good luck at the polls.